been an interesting 12 months for WWE. Like in December 2018, the McMahons and Triple H's were out there going, we're going to change everything. Then in January, Seth Rollins win the Royal Rumble. Then by the end of the year, everybody hates him, and Brock Lesnar was coming and going and coming and going, as he's wont to do. We had Tyson Fury in a damn WWE ring. It's been all over the place. And while there is plenty of good that we can take away from it, there are also some moments that you just know deep down, WWE don't want to talk about anymore, which is especially, well, I guess impressive, because we're only just finished, or just about to finish, 2019. Anyway, my name is Simon Miller, this is What Culture Wrestling. Hit that subscribe button. This is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about 2019. Number 10, SmackDown hasn't really changed. Before SmackDown debuted on Fox in October 2019, the word on the street was we were about to get sweeping changes. Executives at the TV network wanted to have it more of a sports feel, and we were going to get more serious, and all of a sudden Raw was going to feel like Raw and SmackDown was going to feel like SmackDown, but there would be a wedge between the two. And that kind of was true at the start of things. I mean, The Rock was there, for one, everybody got excited about that. And yeah, even though Brock Lesnar jumped from SmackDown to Monday, you were still like, okay, a lot is happening here. I'm intrigued to see what the end result will be. However, the answer to that was absolutely nothing, and the Blue brand has just been your usual dose of sports entertainment, right down to Roman Reigns being forced to eat some dog food. I mean, I've never seen that in the NFL or the NBA or the MLB, so I don't really think we're going after this sports idea. And that's such a shame, because the opportunity was there to shake everything up. I'm not just talking about visually. I love all the visual changes that WWE made. I think the set looks awesome, but when it comes down to the content, it feels like the SmackDown I've been watching for the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, at this point in 2019, 2020, we do need something fresh. When you're jumping to such a big channel, surely this was the time to do it. For some reason, we stuck to the status quo. And no one likes the status quo, unless you're referring to the band. They're pretty good. Number 9, some of the issues with Tyson Fury. Now, I want to make it clear that I was actually quite impressed when Tyson Fury took on Braun Strowman at Crown Jewel. I mean, the guy had only been training to be a pro wrestler for around about 2 seconds, but he moved around and certainly seemed like he had a good idea of what was required of him, and I'm never going to crap all over that. I mean, I wouldn't crap over anything. It's really disgusting, but you take my point. The issue, however, came in the sense that nobody really knew who this was for. On the one hand, you had hardcore wrestling fans, and as always, they didn't want to see Tyson Fury enter their world. They weren't into it, and the mainstream media, while fascinated by Tyson Fury, didn't really cover it like WWE had wanted. Like over here in the UK, a radio station just decided to go with the whole, oh, wrestling is fake, what is Tyson Fury doing? And again, me as a wrestling fan, I just went boop, and I turned it off, because I thought we were done with that rhetoric by now. I think the main problem is that it was a wrestling celebrity match as opposed to a celebrity wrestling match, and what I mean by that is that we tried to stick to the fundamentals on what makes for a good contest when it comes to sports entertainment, as instead going, well, how can we have fun with this, given that we have a very famous person involved. Think about WrestleMania 24 with Floyd Mayweather versus The Big Show. That didn't feel like a wrestling match at all, but everybody loved it because we played to Floyd's strengths. And maybe that's what we should have done here too. It certainly seems like Tyson may be coming back for another round at WrestleMania 36 when he takes on Brock Lesnar, and think about that, and hopefully, given we have a lot of time, we can come up with something that will shake the tree just a little bit more. But yeah, if you want to forget about this, I think that's probably fine. Everybody else has already. Number 8. The Undertaker versus Goldberg. I don't like ragging on anybody, as you know if you watch me here on What Culture Wrestling, but sometimes you see a fish and you've got to call it a fish. And The Undertaker versus Goldberg at Super Showdown back in April in Saudi Arabia, well, it just wasn't very good. And this isn't just me saying this, both The Undertaker and Bill themselves have come out and said, you know what, I would want to forget about that. So if everybody else could forget about that too, that's the point of this whole list. For me personally, I didn't really get the hype anyway, because at no point, even during the peak of World Championship Wrestling and World Wrestling Federation, did I think, oh, I'd like to see Goldberg versus The Undertaker. There were other guys that would have taken those roles, and here it was like everything was working against them. It was hot, people were being concussed, people were being dropped on their heads. For some reason, Goldberg decided to launch his skull into a door before he even began, which sent him loopy. I don't like any of this. The funny part was even WWE realized this because they spent the rest of the year trying to rehab both of them. We had that match with Undertaker where he teamed with Roman Reigns for no reason, but he looked far better there. And of course, Goldberg had that badass match with Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam 2019. So thankfully now we can end the year feeling good about both these legends, but never, ever, 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 ever try and recall what happened before that. Don't watch it on the network. Don't talk about it with Goldberg or Undertaker if you see them in the street. Don't tell your mum, don't tell your dad. Don't make it some weird Christmas tradition. Let's just pretend doesn't exist. Number 7, they really messed up Seth Rollins' face turn. Regardless what you think about Seth Rollins and his Twitter account and his booking and that Hell in a Cell match and things he said on the microphone, there ain't no two ways about it. We talked about it in the intro, but we began 2019 as Seth Rollins as this white hot baby face winning the Royal Rumble and going to WrestleMania and getting cheered out the place, and we ended it with him being some kind of godfather figure for the Authors of Pain, and every single person on the planet going, boo, Seth, boo, you suck. And this has nothing to do with his ring work or how good he is as a professional wrestler, because he is absolutely brilliant, but in terms of his character, he was run so far into the ground that he had to go back to being bad boy Seth. Now actually, I prefer him like this. I think he's a far better heel than he as a face, but that wasn't the plan. And at one point, WWE actually had it going in the wrong way. Once more, they burned it into the ground. How ironic is that? They burned Seth Rollins down. It was all that nonsense in the summer when he was teaming up with Becky Lynch to take on Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans, and I've already hinted about the stuff with Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, and that's just something you should forget about regardless. But all of it came together, and it absolutely pushed Seth onto a different trajectory, and I bet it's one that he didn't even want to go on in the first place. I actually think he's going to have a great 2020, because again, I think they're onto something here, but it was not part of the plan. Number 6, Kofi Kingston's push was a happy accident. So it may have ended terribly when SmackDown did debut on Fox, but never forget that one of the highlights of the entire year was Kofi Kingston's rise to becoming world champion and having that very emotional match against Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. Kofi Mania was running so wild at the start of the year that Vince McMahon had no other choice but to listen to the fans. Remember that ear thing he used to do? He was doing that. Drop all other plans and pushed Kofi as far as he could. This was basically WrestleMania 30 and Daniel Bryan all over again. It was absolutely wonderful though, and seeing the sheer glee on Kofi Kingston's face as he held that world title off in New York made absolutely everything else worth it. But again, none of this was actually meant to happen. Ali was meant to be getting the big ha-ha instead, but when he got injured, a hastily reworked gauntlet match that saw Kingston inserted into it changed everything. It doesn't matter because we got what we wanted, but it's always nice to take a step back and remember that this was never on the table, and as I said, was just a happy accident, even though it was the best thing to happen in WWE for the entire year. Number 5, the unhappiness of one Dean Ambrose. This isn't even any kind of a secret. Ever since Dean Ambrose became John Moxley and left the WWE, he has done so many interviews, so many podcasts, and told so many people, look, I didn't really like my time in WWE, I didn't like the creative process, I didn't like it when they stuck something up my ass, I didn't like the fact I had to wear a gas mask. I pretty much was miserable there, and boy howdy am I glad to be out. Doesn't do much for WWE PR and trying to paint this picture of a happy camp, because at least one of those campers was certainly not elated by any sense. And also don't forget what he did when he left the company. He went on to become one of the biggest stars that we'd seen in American wrestling for some time, or at least had the buzz that made you think he was about to climb to the top. He also said incredible things like back in January when everyone was getting excited about the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, he had worked out when his contract would end and what exactly he was going to do when he got out the door. One of the things he was definitely not going to do was re-sign. Not the best. And there was nothing that was going to get him to stay either. John Moxley, whether true or not, said he received a contract extension from WWE and he didn't even look at the sum of money because there was nothing that was going to change his mind. I mean, that is some serious resolve, and I respect the dude, but again, how much must he have hated WWE? To be fair, he had a point, because afterwards he has gone out and absolutely shone in both AEW and New Japan, and a big reason for that is the creative freedom he wasn't getting in New York, or should I say, Stamford, Connecticut. So remember that, or in the case of this list, don't. Number 4, the ending to WrestleMania. Now, before anybody says anything, this was 100% the correct match to headline WrestleMania 35. Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch had kicked all the ass, and it was the only thing that you could have done. It was deserved, and while it was nice to finally have a women's main event at WrestleMania, you could also argue it took way too long. However, yes, we do have to call a spade, and if you go out there into the internet wrestling world, it certainly does seem like the referee botched the finish to said bout, which is not what we wanted. Despite Becky Lynch rolling Ronda Rousey up and said official counting 1, 2, 3, well, Ronda Rousey's shoulder wasn't on the mat. When we saw replays of this, WWE just blacked out the screen. All you heard was 1, 2, 3. I think that kind of sums it up. Not really what we were going for. I mean, the main event had already suffered because the show went on for 42 hours. I think I went through 3 birthdays during it, but also to have it like that with a confused crowd going, wait, has Becky Lynch just won both belts or not? I'm not sure. Again, it just wasn't ideal, but mistakes happen. You can't help it, we're only human beings, and we should have the empathy and the sympathy for others to forgive them and move past this. But we can also forget about it and just be happy that Becky Lynch used this to take an even higher level up than she was before. Number 3, the death of Hell in a Cell. We've already talked about it a little bit, but yes, I do believe in 2019, 22 years after the concept was first come up with, we killed Hell in a Cell for good, or at least gave it a rule that makes absolutely bloody no sense. Aside from just the bad booking of Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt and the red light that pissed everybody off and everything else that we could go into, it was the finish that left us all absolutely baffled. Because now we know, even though there's no disqualifications and we have to have a winner in a Hell Cell contest, if you lay a ladder and a toolbox onto someone and then smash them with the hammer, the referee will all of a sudden be morally obligated to just call the whole thing off. I mean, the whole reason we have Hell in the Cells is because a feud has gotten to such a fever pitch, we need to just, let them have it out so we can move on. That didn't happen here at all. And even I, the most positive man in the world, has to say it was terrible. It didn't help that in Hell in a Cell 2018, we had a similar kind of nonsense when Brock Lesnar came out, just laid out Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, and someone went, oh, okay, well, I guess we can't do anything now. And that's it. I think we got to kill Hell in a Cell. I can't believe I'm saying it. I love Hell in a Cell. That 1997 match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker is absolutely fantastic, especially because that's when Kane debuted, and obviously Mankind versus Undertaker. We all remember that one. But man, are we a long way away from there. And I think we need to move with the times. It's over. The aura has been tarnished. Unless WWE has a great plan to rebuild that in 2020, it's best we just cut our losses. And if you haven't seen that Hell in a Cell match, I will just say this, don't bother. It's not worth your time. Go and lick a lollipop. Lollipop will give you more enjoyment than that. Number 2, the Jordan Myles racism row. I don't profess to know all the details, so I'm just going to recount this with the evidence that's already out there. But it did start off when WWE produced a very, very stupid t-shirt, in my own opinion, that Jordan Myles quite rightfully found offensive. Then it was said that he'd gone back to Triple H and the marketing team and said, I don't like this, and they had changed it, and that mostly at this stage, everybody was quite happy with developments. Again, I don't know, I'm just reporting what I have been told. Because from nowhere, Myles then quit the company and went on a tirade against Vince McMahon and Triple H and WWE as a whole, calling them racist and saying that he was never given his due. Obviously, any allegation like that has to be taken seriously, and in no way should we ever turn a blind eye, but it got to the point where people like Mark Henry and Booker T were defending WWE and saying that Jordan Myles had kind of gone off the wrong path there. And it wasn't just WWE employees saying that. Shad Gaspard, who you may remember from Crime Time, he also went on Twitter and told Jordan Myles, now known as ACH, that he's going about this completely the wrong way. WWE would obviously like to move on from this quite quickly and for you and I to forget about it. And just for the comments and the internet in general, again, I'm just recounting information here. All I will say about it is that any kind of racism or bigotry or anything like that just needs to die. It needs to go away. It's 2019. We're all the same. We're all human beings, for goodness sake. If you have bad thoughts in your head, be aware of it and go out, educate yourself and sort it. But yeah, this weren't great at all. Number 1, everything with Saudi Arabia. Many were surprised that WWE continued to go back to Saudi Arabia in 2019, and you can understand why. I mean, just turn your brains back to everything that happened the year before, which people still couldn't believe. And really the biggest problem with the 2 shows that WWE does do out in the country every single year always end with some kind of controversy, like a crown jewel in 2019. There were all these reports that wrestlers weren't allowed to leave the country and they were stuck on a plane. And some people said it was mechanical problems and other people said there was some kind of political falling out. I mean, we just never know. But all I do know is that you never get through one of these without there being something. They are problem-ridden. It's like bed bugs. And the real reason, of course, for all of this is that WWE has a very lucrative contract with them, and they want to be able to funnel that money back into their financial back end. So you may agree with that and you may not agree with that. But I know when I watch my professional wrestling, I just want to be entertained. I don't want all this other negativity to hit me in the face. And yet again, like I say, you can never get through one of these without that happening, which is why, once again, for what, like the 3rd year, WWE would just like you to forget about it. Know of anything else that WWE would like you to forget about 2019? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch more videos here in What Culture Wrestling. I spoke so fast, I've actually made myself out of breath. What a dingus. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching. And don't forget, see, tying it into the title, to watch me in 2020, where we continue to break down the walls of professional wrestling. As a Chris Jericho reference, and it wasn't even meant to be.